Appreciate it. Hello, my name is Rachel Osterling, and good morning and happy Friday. I am going to be the host today for the Tier 2 updates. I am the Central Area Lead for the Tier 2 team, as most of you probably already know. And as a reminder, we do host these Tier 2 updates once a month on the last Friday of every month at 10:30. Some of the topics that I'm going to go over today for our updates, I'm just going to briefly go over the in-person transition training that we just completed throughout the state. I will talk about the DBH facility to DD community transition process webinar that's coming up. I'm going to talk about a couple upcoming podcasts that are actually now live. I will go over the Tier 2 capacity map that we have for our team to give you an overview of the things that we've done and what we have planned for the future. I'm also going to go over some changes to the transition coffee and chat that we have on a monthly basis. I'm going to talk about the MOAD summit that's coming up. And then I'm going to provide what our November's extra scoop topic is going to be for this upcoming month. So the first thing I want to talk about today is the transition training workshop that we just completed. So I just want to thank you for everybody that attended in person. We appreciate that you guys all showed up. And some of you, we do know, had to drive quite a ways to attend. So we really appreciate that. So we just want to thank you. We've been doing these workshops since August, so August, September, and October. We visited Kansas City, Columbia, St. Louis, Springfield, and then yesterday was our last one in Sikeston. We had a lot of really good attendance. We had a lot of great participation for those that showed up, and we had some really good feedback. So we're hoping that we can take that back and help improve our transition process training that we have. So thank you for that. And we are looking forward to having this opportunity with you all again in the future. What that looks like, just stay tuned and we'll let you know what that schedule will be like. Because I think what we'll do is have our RPCs do some in-person training possibly in the future. But like I said, we will keep you guys updated. Next thing I want to go over is there is a transition process webinar that's going to be hosted. That is for those individuals that are transitioning from the Department of Behavioral Health to the developmental disabilities service providers or our residential facilities. So with this webinar, they're going to provide some updates on the transition process for those that are being discharged from DBH, which is those state operated facilities going into the residential providers. Some of the information will include what has changed recently, why those changes have been made, and they'll do a complete walkthrough of that transition process. I did put on here a QR code. So if you want, you can take out your phones and scan in that code. That should take you directly to the webinar to register. We did have a date, but I did have to pull that back because I think that's going to be set back a little bit further. So that is to be determined. And we will keep you guys updated when that webinar is going to be hosted. Those people that we're encouraging to attend this webinar are support coordinators, support coordinator supervisors, anybody at the regional office, residential providers, and then anybody else that might be interested in attending. Maybe, for example, like guardians or individuals or family members that want to know what this process is. And like I said, That date is to be determined, as that has recently changed. I'm not sure if they changed that on the website or not, but that should be updated soon. The next update I want to provide is, I think it was the last Tier 2 update. I let you guys know that our Eastern area lead, Carl Honiger, he has been working really hard on doing some podcasts, which are now available on Spotify. I have provided a QR code here that you can scan into your phone if you would like. That will take you directly to the 2 episodes that he now has live. So he's currently doing a series called Opening the Tiers. In episode 1, he interviews Dr. Rogers and Dr. Freeman about tiered supports and how that got started here in the state of Missouri. So if you kind of want some history about tiered supports and how it came to Missouri, that might be a really good podcast to listen to. Episode 2, he's just continuing with the series of Opening the Tiers. He continues his discussion with Dr. Rogers and Dr. Freeman, and they just go into what Tier 2 does, what those barriers are, and offers a lots of really good additional information about Tier 2. So if those are something that you're interested in learning more about, I would just encourage you to go out there and listen to Carl's podcast. He has a great radio voice and it's very easy to listen to, and you'll learn lots of good information. Just stay tuned and I will try to keep you guys updated on upcoming podcasts and episodes that he's going to be having. I believe his schedule is going to be at least 1 or 2 podcast episodes per month. So just kind of be aware that that's what he's hoping to have out for everybody. The next thing I want to go over is the Tier 2 capacity map here. I do understand that there's lots of columns, there's lots of information here, so I'm just going to briefly go over this real quick. So this past year, our team, the Tier 2 team, has implemented some problem solving sessions, some opportunities to discuss some things. We've offered lots of workshops, whether that's transition workshops or those extra scoops workshops. We've offered a lot of avenues of information sharing. We've done some coaching, some learning platforms, and completed some assessments. In the future, we're going to focus a little bit more on those coaching and assessment opportunities. So stay tuned for that. Some of these will continue on through to the next year, but we may have some minor changes and updates to these. The Coffee and Chat does have a small update, which I will go over in the next slide with you. We will still have a transition workshop, but this may be cut back to quarterly because right now we're doing these monthly. So just keep in mind that this may not be offered on a monthly basis. And then with the extra scoops topics, we're going to continue to provide the extra scoops that we've noticed are like hot topics right now and much needed workshops. And that includes the 30-day notices. That's really important and a need right now. The check-in, check-out, the social emotional learning, and going over the safety crisis planning. So those we're going to try to keep on a rotation. And we will continue to explore what are some other topics that we see as a need based off of the data trends that we're seeing. So just kind of keep in mind that some of these topics, could change, and we'll add in some new ones. We're currently developing more learning platforms through Relias. So in Relias, we're going to have some of the transition training workshops available in that. And then I think we're going to offer some extra scoops topics in there as well. So I just want to point out there are some of these boxes, these fields that are highlighted yellow. this is because we've started the development of these, but it isn't fully available to our providers and our teams quite yet. So that's why we have those highlighted for you. And like I said in the previous slide, I just want to go over what we have coming up. We currently have the Transition Coffee and Chat, but we are going to change this name to the Tier 2 Coffee and Chat. This will start in November, and our next one is on November 8th. And just keep in mind, this is always the second Tuesday of the month. So a couple of reasons for changing this. When we first started this Coffee and Chat, it was really geared toward helping everyone with some of the changes that we've had with the transition process, the creation and how to use the transfer and the transition inboxes, talking about sending in those referrals, what's required for those referral packets, and doing a lot of explaining and talking about the partial and full support. So now we feel that most people kind of have a handle of things on the transition process. So we really want to shift this as an opportunity to talk more about Tier 2 risk prevention and what that role looks like for our risk prevention consultants. And like I said, this will start in November. The next thing I wanted to announce is we have the Missouri Alliance for Dually Diagnosed Summit coming up. Most of you may be familiar with MOAD. That's what we refer it to as. We do have a QR code that I've placed on this slide as well for you. If you want to get registered, you want to know more about MOAD, go ahead and scan this QR code in. The date for this summit is the 9th of November, and that's going to be an all-day event from 9 to 3:30, and that's located at the Holiday Inn in Columbia, Missouri. And like I said, if that's something you're interested in or want to get registered, go ahead and scan that QR code in. And I'll give you a little bit of background about MOAD real quick, just if you're not familiar with it. MOAD was established in 2018 as a collaborative effort between both the Department of Mental Health staff and the Department of Mental Health providers who are interested in developing expertise in supporting these individuals with that dual diagnosis. And so when I say dual diagnosis, they're looking at those with intellectual developmental disabilities and those with behavioral health diagnosis. So that's what we mean when we're talking about dually diagnosed. And some additional information, MOAD provides resources to assist those providers with the most current best practices when working with those individuals, how to develop integrated systems to make their agencies more aware of resources for them, and like I said, provide a better outcome for those individuals. And then most of our Tier 2 team, I believe, is going to attend this summit. So if you guys are attending, you may see some of us there as well. And the next update I want to provide in November, our Extra Scoops topic is going to be on self-care. If this is a topic that you're interested in and you want to learn more about with this, I've provided that QR code on this slide as well. That's going to be hosted on November 15th at 1 o'clock. It usually goes till about 3 or 3:30. Just to kind of give you an overview of what we're going to talk about with the self-care. We're going to briefly discuss the foundations and purpose for self-care, but we'll dive into more specifics like just making sure that what you're doing, whether for yourself or for the individuals that you serve, is enough self-care. So for like example, some people require less self-care than others. Some people require a lot more self-care to keep themselves motivated and going. So how self-care affects our overall health and a few other things. So we would just encourage you guys, if this is something that you're interested in, go ahead and get registered if you're not already. We would encourage you to do that. And that's all the updates I have for this month. So thank you. We appreciate you guys attending. The next Tier 2 update is going to be on Friday, November 25th at 10:30. And like Kat said at the beginning, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat and I will get back with you later on that. Thank you, everybody.